Good morning, everybody, and welcome to the Payments Leader Show. I'm your host, Adrian Evans. And on the Payments Show, we're always looking at what are the opportunities that are presented. And we embrace the opportunities first before we start looking at the threats in our wonderful industry and what's occurring there across the ecosystem. I'm absolutely delighted today to welcome Ugne, who is the Group CEO of Payable. Welcome.
Hi, hello. Happy to be here today, and thank you for having me. So my name is Ugne, as it was already mentioned. I run a group of companies for Payable. We're an established financial institution across multiple jurisdictions, and we provide seamless solutions for merchants and clients to transact globally and accept payments everywhere.
Wonderful, wonderful. Yeah, and I know want to get into. There's been a lot of exciting news about some of the alternative payment methods that you've been promoting recently. But I wonder if we could start. There was recently you put I hear that you were talking about that ambition really matters, but consistency matters more. Has there been a specific period where that lesson has been really come to life for you?
I think these lessons are something that you accumulate throughout your life. I don't think it happens sort of as a aha moment or something very specific. Very early in my career, I learned that the more work you put in and the more consistent you are, the better results you achieve. So I think this comes from me firstly, personally, and the way that I look at certain things. And also how I treat, life around me, and also how I even teach my child about, certain things. So without you may as well have luck in life, and that's part of it. You also may be unlucky in some sense. So you cannot really ride on these, high pitched, moments where something goes really well, and you consider it as just, as this is how it's going to work. So, but I think. Maybe where it made really clear to me when I decided to do the Ironman challenge, and it was kind of the correlation was very apparent between the business and the consistency and what you want to achieve and the ambition, right? So you have you want to go somewhere, you want to do something, you want to achieve, and you have a certain goal. And that goal then needs to be sort of dissected by many multiple things of what you're good at, what you're lacking, where it needs to take you, or what are the time frames, and all of these kind of things. And myself and the team prepared for the challenge for almost a year. And only because we were very consistent, and it's very demanding also preparation. We managed to all finish and to do it. And it's also the same in any company or any job or anything that you do. A lot of these things take a lot of time and a lot of work behind. So whatever you see, the growth, the new releases, all of new shiny things that the company also might produce. It's usually comes with a lot of behind the scenes work that needs to be done day in and day out. And some of it, it's very dull. Some of it doesn't really work out. Some things, you scrap and you do something else. But without that, I think really I don't believe that anybody can be successful without hard work and consistency. I think that's it's very boring. I think not very shining, but unfortunately, that's the actual reality of life.
It's fascinating. I never got to do an Ironman, but I did triathlons for a number of years myself. But again, there's things you're naturally good at, and there's things that you're not.
Yes.
I was always good on the bike, but a dreadful swimmer. So how did you? Because I think it's very similar to running a business in many ways. You might have a very strong product area, but operations isn't as good, and then the legal component. So what are the parallels there for you about? Because that's three disciplines, but running a business can be many disciplines.
Correct. So I think it's first, as I mentioned before, it's kind of like dissecting what are your strengths, what are you good at, what is sort of your leading talent in a way, and then basically identifying all of those gaps and saying, okay, what do I need to work more. And in the business was also the same. When I took over Payable 6 years ago, I saw something that was already built and there. But it was lacking. It was a small company, of 30 people. And actually, to be honest, it was a very similar process, the way that I looked at Ironman training and the way that I looked, at if you just, cut all of the complexity. It was like, okay, so we have this, it works, it does that, but it's lacking this, not really good at that. We need to improve that. And then you just sort of, slowly start working on those things. Sometimes maybe there isn't a one particular goal, right? It's having something that is, like a rough diamond in a way, right? And you don't know at what size the diamond will come out, what kind of shape, So and then slowly you start, polishing, and something, comes out of it. And with Ironman, for sure, I first of all, I was not able to swim a year and a bit ago. So one of those things that I had to learn, for example, is swimming. And I think also the success comes a lot is when you do those hard things that you you're not necessarily very good at, is learning to like them and learning to love them at the end of the day. And I think this is also one of my, key strengths, is that even though I hate something in the beginning and the process looks dreadful, and I learn to embrace it. And at the end of the day, all of the lessons, that we take, building the business as well and growing, with the company, are the lessons that we use later. And we're very proud of that as well in all aspects of our business.
Wonderful, wonderful. No, it's funny. You're giving me flashbacks of open water swimming, and that was something that really wasn't enjoyable. But I thought, I'm going to get to enjoy this, and having a good coach helped. I always remember my coach. She said to me, she knew I was nervous, and she said to me, "Look for some kingfishers around the lake today." I was like, "Kingfishers?" And she went, "Yeah, you just look for kingfishers." And we swam for an hour, and then she said to me, "How many kingfishers did you spot?" I said, "Oh, I didn't see any." And she said, "Yeah, but you swam a couple of miles today." It was a really clever tactic, really clever tactic.
No, it's also, I think it's also finding positives in everything that you do as well. I think that is very important, and people underestimate. If you're going to have a negative attitude when you're doing something or where you're trying to achieve something, it's a very difficult path. So ultimately, you have to find, even in the hardest moments, in the moments where you think, okay, things maybe not, going really well, you still have to look, okay, what is going well? What are the parallels of, okay, if this, continues, or if I endure this, you end up in a position maybe that it will be much far superior, but you have to suffer for a little bit.
Sure. So when you co-founded Payable, what convinced you? As you say, there was what convinced you to spend such a significant part of your career on this endeavor? Because there's no guarantees. We know the payments industry is exciting, but it's highly competitive. But what brought that to life for you?
Sure. So just to factually correct, I didn't found the company. The company is 15. We celebrated 15-year anniversary this year. And 6 years ago, I took over from one of the owners of the company. I think I have to look from first, not from the company perspective, but from my perspective. So where I was 6 years ago, I've already been in the business for almost 11, 12 years. I've done a lot of things in payments, with technology, with acquiring. And I was at a time in my career where I knew I would be able to do more. And the place that I was at that time sort of didn't really allow me to learn anymore. And I still felt that, that's for me in general, learning is one of the most important aspects. And I think highly successful people in general constantly learn, and they will constantly are ambitious, to expand, their knowledge base. So when I got this opportunity, I saw something, as I said, sort of as a rough diamond. I knew already enough about the industry and about payments and what needs to be done and what can be achieved also in a certain amount of time. So I had already a good base. The things that the company was already making were there. And I just needed to make sure that it scales, fix the issues, or work on the issues that basically need to be worked at. And then we grew the company to 30, I think now it's 350 plus people in the company. So from 30 to 350 in 6 years time, with thousands of clients around. And yeah, it was, so I think it's kind of, as I said, it's where I was and where the company was. And I think we just fit one another really well, because I needed a challenge and the company needed a bit of a transformation.
You mentioned about learning there. Why does learning seem so important to you? What's the curiosity behind that?
Look, first of all, I don't think that you can know everything, and
Yep.
I don't know everything, but I certainly want to know more and more. And that helps you. That helps you in your decision making. It helps you in your everyday life, also in work. And it also gives you a broader perspective of certain things. So when my teams need me, at payable, or I need to take a certain decision, it makes it much easier for me to do it faster and to get it right. And if you are just stuck in your certain bubble and you feel that that you've learned everything, if I would feel like that, then that means that it's not the place for me anymore. But fortunately, payments is a very complex business, which I sort of fail to see when it will be a moment that I will say, oh, my God, now I learned everything. Now I know. It's fast moving. It changes. It's very complex. All the regulatory layers as well. That we have. It makes it also very hard, I suppose, for people to enter. Or harder because of this as well. So you're constantly, in need of this, learning mindset. And in my view, the people that that do really well, it's the ones that really are inquisitive and keen, to understand, the business and our industry in general. But I think it works for everything, I'm sure. But fintech is, it's tough and very complex. So and having a certain knowledge as well really helps. And if you expand on certain areas that are complementing the business, it's just it can only be better.
Sure. Yeah, I really feel that in payments, particularly, like almost every day feels like a school day. There's a new piece of technology, or there's a new piece of regulation, or there's a new entrant. So I can definitely concur with that. So
Yeah.
You've led obviously the company, as you mentioned there, through dramatic growth, sort of tenfold growth in terms of number of people in the organization. What is something that worked brilliantly when the business was smaller, but doesn't work when you scale?
My team will love me for saying this. So
Go on.
not having policies and procedures worked very well when you're a team of 30. Because the knowledge is basically passed from one to another very quickly. And when a team is very small, you can have all of the control, and it's kind of, it's enough to bind everything together and to keep the processes still running, really well. Absolutely not possible to do that with 350 people, with thousands of merchants. So we're still working on this sort of transition, I think, every year by year. And we certainly became much better as well, but we are very much in this process of organization and making sure that that there are clear processes and guidelines, and also continuity is very important, obviously, for the business as people change. So I think that was, in my view, I think that's the biggest difference, and it's a difference that you have to really control really well, because as you scale, it becomes very obvious that you have certain gaps. And if all of the chain doesn't work from A to Z, and you have blind spots, or certain team members have blind spots, then you end up making mistakes, and sometimes very costly ones.
So how do you make sure the policy is not just adhered to, but also embraced? Because there's one thing to have a set of procedures, it's something quite different for the people engagement to understand why they're important, and for them to be followed, because they have huge implications across the whole supply chain.
I think for us, the reason why it works, because we are a financial institution. So I always say that we have many police departments, so to speak, in the company, which are very process and policy driven, and they have to be, because we're a regulated institution. So I think the mentality for everyone comes down to, whenever we talk and whenever I talk about the company, and I make sure that also people feel the same, we're doing a very specific service. which means that we are holding third-party funds. So you always come from that, position that whatever you do and whatever you do in the company might end up with someone else's issues, maybe with someone else's money, right? So in a very simple terms, that's the starting point. And then that means that whatever we follow through, the processes in the company, those are really adhered to because people have responsibility and accountability for it. But I wouldn't say that there's an enforcement per se. I have an excellent C-level team. I have excellent mid-level management as well team, which is very calibrated and coordinated. So whatever comes from the C level goes down to the middle management, and then it also goes to every single employee. So I think that chain is the most important chain. And then just really understanding what the business does gives you the accountability and the willingness to do. But of course, there's also many internal policies and things, that are not maybe so much business related, but just operational for us, which, okay, there's a little bit more maybe leeway, and it's okay if maybe they're not kept always and all the time.
So that brings us nicely really to and you place a lot of emphasis on people and culture. What's one of the most difficult decisions you've had to make as a leader, and what did that teach you about people performance in a regulated space?
Okay. I don't think that I have ever had to take a very difficult decision, because it depends what you consider a difficult decision. So for me, a difficult decision would be, first and foremost, if I would have to fire people. But fire people at scale, which for any business leader or anyone that runs a company, I think that would be my, if I were to say, that would be the most hard decision that you could ever make. And throughout the regular business operations, you take decisions all the time, and you take some hard ones because you have to forfeit something one or another. But I could not say that there is something very specific but in general, everything related with people and letting people go or changing. I think these are the hardest for the organization in general, because ultimately, people are the key drivers for any business, and any changes are sensitive. I would say, and need to be looked at, very carefully. But for me personally, I think throughout the years, what is always the most difficult part is to deal with my ego and making sure that doesn't get in the way in certain decisions and decision making as well. And I think this is also part of something to do maybe with ambition. And I always try to be very mindful of that whatever I do and whatever decision I make is not influenced by something that is not rational. Let's put it this way.
Wow, that's very honest and vulnerable of you. But if we may, can we just explore that a little further?
Sure.
Where could your ego take over? Relative, well, first of all, you've got awareness there, which is the start of that. But where could that overtake what's in the best interest of the business, and how do you cap that and make sure it's aligned?
Yeah, so it's basically always wanting to do more, or to do better, or also to push the organization to a level where, okay, I have this thing, I decided that it has to be that way and at that time, and we have to deliver, and and we want to look good, and we want to be the first to do that. But sometimes it comes at a cost of running the organization into the ground, or people into the ground, and you have to be very cautious of that, because you have to be mindful of the resources, and also sometimes priorities change. So
Indeed.
Handling the priorities that come and say, okay, this shiny thing that really makes us look maybe really good, and it's an amazing product or addition that we were waiting for 6 months, has to wait another 6 months. And it's a very hard thing for someone that in general wants everything here and now, and and the faster and the better. So that is something that I think the team also taught me, and I think I let go of a lot of this notion of, okay, we have to do it live or die. But sometimes you do it live or die, because it's it's something that comes at a certain cost. And you weigh those, whether it's a cost of an actual cost, whether it's also resources plus plus the cost, So sometimes you need to, push maybe a little bit harder. But in general, I think it also happens to all organizations in general. So you want to launch something, you want to, proceed with something fast, you maybe want to introduce, something, and it's you always have to be very mindful what does that mean, for the organization. So I think I became much better with that in the last years. But it's certainly something that that I have to maybe swallow from time to time, just to say, okay, I will just have to wait for that shiny moment to come through.
And just on that front, is that something you now have a process for, where you can actually take to zoom out yourself, or do you have somebody who sort of counterbalances you with that, and having a strong team around you? Do you have a process?
The process is simple. As I mentioned before, we have a very strong executive team, which with very clear competences. So they cover all of the competences very deeply, and that means that whatever the advice that I will receive from them, I will take note, and they bring and bridge basically whatever happens in the company and whatever the consequences might be, or anything else basically that needs to be brought forward. And we work in that way that we have areas of expertise where some of them take full ownership, and I don't need to be involved anymore. And I'm still more focused on the business development side, the growth, and certain other key areas in the business. But without a strong team, of course, it's not. As I said, I'm not an expert in all of the things and all of the disciplines that we have in the company. So if you don't have people beside you who are the experts, it's very difficult to run the business. And I think this is also one of my key advices to anyone that is in a position like that, is to make sure that the team beside you is really capable, and also capable of owning certain decisions, and then it makes life much easier.
Sure. So that combination of both competence and also willingness to challenge and ability to challenge is what is creating that environment.
Absolutely, and I love to be challenged, and I always take it with the utmost respect, and I always listen, and also that's part to do with learning, right? Maybe you had something in your mind that you're set on, and you think, okay, that's the right approach, and you could just be stuck on that and not, be willing to move away from it. But as the information comes in, you have to actually assess, okay, is this something that affects the decision that I've taken or I want to take? Or I can continue in my belief that this is, the right. Sometimes, of course, you hear all of the information, and you take certain risks, but that's also part of my responsibility to weigh on where you are betting in a way. But it's much less of it, and it cannot be at the size of the organization that we are. It still has to be very calculated, and we serve a lot of clients. We have licenses, across now multiple, jurisdictions. So everything that we do is really has to be calculated, because otherwise we have clients that might be affected, our teams, that might be affected. So it's a difficult balancing act.
Of course. You mentioned that this, you sort of feel in many ways this is just the beginning, even though you've had a huge trajectory of growth. What are, over the next sort of 18 months to 3 years, what are the opportunities? There are many opportunities across the payments industry. But if I was to say, which one opportunity excites you the most?
I think the opportunity that excites me the most is to continue developing our product the way that I imagined it. I've been in the industry for almost 20 years. I've seen it all. I've seen many problems. I've seen many complex issues, and I always had a vision of how to resolve those problems. And we built a platform, which is Payable One, which is a growing and never sort of ceasing to grow platform. So whatever the implementation we're doing now, it will still continue to do in the next 2, 3, 5, 10 years, because it listens, and we look basically what the industry requires, what our merchants require, what are the issues that we need to resolve, and we constantly implement. And in my view, still the biggest complexity is the how cross-border payments work, how money movement is very tricky and very costly to the merchant, and lack of transparency for clients. And these are the issues that we've been working on for a very long time, and we continue to do so. And this really excites me because we are able to build and to provide our clients something that I truly believe is changing the way that businesses operate, right? And there's really a lot of cost also even in day-to-day operations for merchants, right, to run payments. And if you look at, at delays or anything, it can be costing, hundreds of thousands of euros or pounds, to merchants globally a year. So this is something that we are focused on, and this is what really excites me. And I like product. So product is one of those disciplines that is still fully with me and under me. And I think it's a really cool thing, to do when you're able and you have a good team to actually help resolve and build products that actually the industry needs, not just because they're a fancy word or something that is really catchy and okay, let's now do this because it will increase the valuation or whatever else is. We are in this beautiful spot where we don't have to worry about that, and I hope we will not have to worry for a while. And that really allows us, to bring things forward that we believe in really, really.
It's funny, isn't it? It's like, I love the confidence you have there, but unfortunately, there is so much friction, and you pick probably on in still left in the payments industry, and you probably picked on the most challenging one as a small business owner myself. Cross-border payments is whether I'm paying suppliers the other side of the world or receiving payments from that. That whole piece is still a minefield, and the big one for me is the lack of transparency. I don't know where that money is, when it leaves, when it's going to be received. So if you're solving there, but also I love the fact that by listening to the industry, you're solving for the industry, and you're solving for merchants.
Absolutely, and we spend a lot of time actually at Payable talking to our clients, and we also attend a lot of shows. We also conduct many interviews and also reports as well, because we want to know what are the key issues and whether the things that we are working on are really the answer to the things that are required for the businesses, right? And that sets us on a good path, and also I think it sets us in a good direction that that we always have this balance check. Okay, is this something that we're building? Does this make sense? And will it make sense also in half a year time or a year's time? But I agree with you that some key things are really still lacking, and transparency is one of them. And this is what Payable One also allows the clients to access very easily. They have all of the data and all of the information in one platform. They can see what they're paying for, where they're paying it out, and when everything is in one ecosystem, it makes it much easier to manage as well, because a lot of the businesses have bank accounts here, they have acquiring here, and all of that in combination is very sort of detached from one another. So our idea is that at least if you're doing and you have those services through us, we make it easier. And the next step is, of course, also to add even the visibility of, let's say, if you give bank accounts. So let's say if the business have their bank accounts with another provider, that they would be able to see it in the platform as well for the purpose of the information, right? So for easy access, control, and all of that. But yeah, this is something that we work on, and as I said, we will continue to do so. We've released a lot of things in the last year and a half. I would say I think it was the busiest year for us, and now we really cater for almost every need of the client might have, in terms of payment processing and acceptance, and it's an exciting thing to be doing.
Yeah, I noticed that the alternative payment platform has been a real emphasis of yours. I think there's three even recently this happened. Why have you invested so heavily in that area?
In alternative payment methods.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's part of also the fragmentation. So because if you look at all of the countries and how end users are used to paying, they have very different preferences depending on the country that they are. So if you want to allow your clients to accept payments without friction, you need to know what the end users are expecting from the checkout page, and this is how we implement them back. Okay, in these countries, you have to have this, or something, that new is coming up like Vero. we understand the importance of it and how important it is, for also for Eurozone. And we want to make sure that, that we are the first ones to offer it. And then when the clients, get used to it, they have a choice. And it's bridging basically this need between the acceptance, from our side, and also the enablement for the merchant, right? Because if you will not enable those options, their checkout experience will suffer, and in return, their returns will suffer as well, right? So I think it's paramount that you have to focus on these options. And even though cards is still predominant in many markets, the use of alternative payment methods is really widely spread. And simply without not being able to offer those options, you simply cannot compete on a checkout page.
Absolutely, and both account to account and alternative payments, they are growing, and you have to be there to build that initial trust. I think the payments industry is built on trust, and if you start at the beginning, you're first to market, and you build trust first, that's going to evolve over a period of time. That's how the whole industry evolved.
Yeah, absolutely.
So moving to the challenges in the industry, you've highlighted quite a few frictions there in different areas, and obviously the listening. But what challenge do you think the industry is underestimating? And obviously, fraud gets headlines. And I seen an amazing stat the other day that if fraud was a country, it would have the third largest GDP in the world, which is quite a startling headline, but quite very worrying, obviously on many fronts. But what is the industry underestimating in your view?
Very hard question to answer, and I think the industry is pretty smart, and I think we talk about all of the matters and things that that are challenging to us, to merchants, to end users, and fraud being one of them for sure. But I think the underestimation still comes, I think, from cross-border payments complexity, even though that we talk about it in every show and every interview that you have. But I think that it really doesn't really show in terms of what the impact on the client side is. And even though that we are aware of it, I think the impact is far greater than the industry actually expects. Because as you said, even from a small business owner, everyone is affected, right? And it also for smaller businesses, it's very difficult, to manage their funds in general. And there needs to be sort of more, I suppose, focus on that. And with fraud in general, I think we place quite a good emphasis there as payment institutions, acquirers, and financial institutions in general. I think we try to follow and also try to implement, certain tools, that help, ourselves, and merchants to deal with fraud. But it's a given that, with the technology growth and AI, there will be growth in both. So basically, it's a double-edged sword. So it's good for us because we are able to also use the same tools, but the same tools are being used there. So I wouldn't say that we're really underestimating the challenge there. I think it's just the challenge is constantly changing. So this is also something that that we are very well aware, and this is something that I think a lot of financial institutions experience. And is a challenge that we will have to live for many years to come. So something that will remain and stay for ultimately until we are done doing this, which is not really possible because money movement is forever. So that means that we will be dealing with this for a very long time.
Yeah, I think this as long as commerce exists, well, money movement's going to exist, and there's going to be bad actors, aren't there?
Exactly. Yes.
So sort of bringing things to a close here in terms of if somebody joins Payable today, what do you hope they learn that has little to do with payments or fintech? What are they going to learn by the environment, from the leadership, and from the people that you're interacting with in the organization?
I think what they would learn is that we are a very ambitious bunch of people, and sometimes we set our minds on doing maybe things that look like unachievable. Like I will give the example of Ironman again, but yet we come together and we do these things, and we prepare, we prep, and I hope that people would feel that they are challenged in a good way, because the way that the company is run and the way that the leadership works is that we want to encourage people to be inquisitive. We want them to learn, and I hope that this is what they would experience, that they are pushed for that growth as well. But it's interesting. The industry itself is very interesting, and they would find a bunch of great people trying to do something really well. And yeah, I think we have a great culture in terms of being pushy, but not too pushy to ruin the pleasure of doing certain things. I think the real face of Payable, and I think it makes it really fun to work and to come to the office. And also we have great premises in all of our offices. We have a great environment. We take care of people in all ways we can. And yeah, I hope it's very imminent and apparent when someone joins and sees that at Payable.
Excellent. Well, I've got a few pages of notes here, but I wonder if I could just make the most salient points that I've taken away from our conversation. Would that be okay?
Yeah. Sure, go ahead.
Well, I think sort of we started and finished with Ironman, which by definition is extreme triathlon on three fronts there, from sort of swim, bike, run, and also I think, but also that's component about consistency and preparation, particularly in the industry that you serve, actually is more important than just ambition. Ambition, I felt from you, was almost a spark, but it's the everyday showing up that actually makes the difference. And one of the things that came to me was like, confidence is one of those things many people seek, but actually preparation and habits beat confidence every day when that's just put into a procedure from that perspective. It's interesting for me as well, though. I could just see there's a definite curiosity that you have that I would say is probably an insatiable one that won't get fulfilled anytime soon, and that's almost turning up every day and questioning things, challenging assumptions, but at the same time the sheer desire to learn. But also that starts as a leader with the acknowledgement you don't know it all. That's why having a really able team around you, but also adding to that tool belt every single day, and also encouraging others to do so, is the very basis. It's interesting on this podcast that the golden thread through the whole, everybody who's been on here is, I would consider to be very curious and a learner.
Yeah.
Interesting then, what you said then about what doesn't, what did work when we were smaller was like now procedures and policies, and we've got third-party money, we had to look after that, and we've got obligations. So there are natural things that actually have to happen from that perspective. I think then when it comes to culture is interesting as well, that you were saying that actually the toughest decision there is something that you sort of have to look in a mirror yourself and manage your own ego and own ambition to where you can see a possibility, but at the same time to say, hey, how does that align with what the priorities are of the organization? And that's when having a very strong exec team and a C-suite team around you that challenges you and also says, for what purpose, where are we heading, why are we doing this? I loved your confidence, though, or belief that the marketplace opportunities will be created because you continually deeply listen to clients, you listen to merchants, you listen to the marketplaces, and that almost becomes self-fulfilling, that you actually see these are the frictions within the industry, and this is how we're going to continually embrace those. So it wasn't you've got an insight, it's like we're going to continue to get insights as long as we're around.
Yes.
I think then in terms of opportunities and challenges, I think we both sort of landed pretty strongly there on cross-border payments. I probably think it is, we see great things about stablecoin and all sorts of other things going on. But cross-border is one of those things that it's headlined in every conference. And as you say, I think it was really honest of you to say the impact of the things that are talked about in the technology certainly isn't always felt across by certainly small, medium, and large enterprise businesses. And as you said, for as long as we're doing money movement, fraud is going to exist, and we just have to be on that. But then I think bringing it back to if somebody's joining Payable today, they're definitely going to be challenged. They're in an exciting industry. They're going to be getting close to clients and they're getting close. But that opportunity to learn, to grow, and I suppose raise their own standards, but actually do something together collectively with a team, so all boats can rise. They were the impressions or the insights I took from our conversation.
Excellent insights. I'm very happy that I said all of those things. So it sounds like it was a great conversation now that you recapped it. But yeah, I just have to sign on everything that we've spoken about. But I will mention one thing about confidence. I truly believe that confidence is something that you learn. I don't believe that anyone is born with confidence, but once you have experience, I agree with you that the more experience you have and the more insights you have, the easier it is to have that confidence or simulate that confidence. And I think this is a very how to say comforting thought for some people, because you can be asked why you're so confident, or why you have this feeling. I think everything is learned in life, and we should be very cautious of that this is not something comes naturally to everybody.
Well, thank you. That's just a superb way to finish the conversation, and a great message for the audience, which I know they'll embrace. So thank you very much indeed.
Thank you so much.